Boxing. Absolute pleasure to be joined all the way from the United States with legendary cutman Jacob Stitch Duran. Stitch, how are you?
Doing good, man. Thanks, Tom, for having me on, young man.
No
All
problem
the
at
best
all.
on your show, huh?
Say that again, sorry.
Said all the best with your show.
Thank you very much, Stitch. I appreciate that. And thanks very much for coming
Yes.
on. It's a pleasure to have you on. So I really just wanted to start, Stitch, by for those people listening that don't know you, how did you actually get into boxing in the first place, to go on to do the things that you've done since?
Yeah, it's been a long road. I started off. I don't think your parents were even born. In 1972, I was stationed in Thailand. I was in the Air Force, the military. I was in the Air Force, and I was a young kid, I think like 20 years old, and I saw my first Muay Thai fight. And, started training the martial arts over. They started with Taekwondo, and then they transitioned us to a little bit of the Muay Thai system, and got back to the States and got into boxing to improve my hands, and then started training amateur boxers and opened up my own school of kickboxing. And I was a trainer and had to learn to be a cut man because they all got cut. So I made the move to Las Vegas from California 28 years ago to follow my dreams. So here I am talking to you.
Fantastic.
Great.
Incredible journey, Stitch. And
Yeah.
along the way, I know you've had an incredible career. Worked with the likes of Tyson Fury, Vladimir Klitschko, Andre Ward, being in the corner for these guys in mega fights. What's it like, being ringside, and not just being a spectator, but actually being involved in some of those mega fights with those kind of guys who are global superstars?
Yeah, there's nothing like it for adrenaline rushes, to work with Vladimir Klitschko when he fought Anthony Joshua at Wembley Stadium. 90,000 of you guys that are Brits. But I tell people, it's 90,000 Brits is like 150,000 of somebody else because they're so involved in the fights. And I remember when Vladimir walked out, it was just a buzz. It was so loud. But then when Anthony Joshua walked out, you could just feel the electricity just kind of double in energy, So, yeah, those are the kind of fights that you got to love. Working with Tyson Fury, he was a great, great guy. Still is a great guy, just funny, and he could fight. So it's been a pleasure to work with the best worldwide, and not only in boxing but MMA and bare knuckle fights and just about anybody that throws down.
Yeah.
So.
And talking about the Klitschko and Joshua fight, Wembley Stadium is an incredible, one of the best heavyweight fights I've seen live. Being ringside for that, how was it with the emotion with Joshua after he gets put down? How do you stay calm in that situation and work through that and in those moments in the corner?
That's a good question. Yeah, years of experience. People always ask me what's it take to be a cut man as well. Number one is composure. But let me give you a little behind the scenes story, Tom, on what happened with Vladimir. And during this fight is I didn't see Vladimir and Vitali'S. I didn't see the team till Friday when we got to the weigh-ins at the arena, right? Because my daughter Carla had just gotten married in the island of Crete Wednesday, and then Thursday I flew to the UK to London, and Vladimir and Vitali were staying in an apartment. So I saw him in the weigh-ins, and we're in the green room, and I'm talking to Vitali and Vladimir, and going over the game plan and how you've been. And it's been a while since I've seen him. And finally, I put my hand on Vladimir like this, and I said, "Look, man, don't worry about nothing tomorrow. I'm gonna take care of you like you're my son." And I leave because I know that the night before a fight, these guys can't sleep. Their adrenaline is rushing, and a lot of things are going through their head. And so, we talked about the entrance them coming out, but when I'm putting the final Vaseline on Vladimir, right before Michael Buffer does his announcements, all these people around the world are looking at us, and we're about this far apart. And Vladimir says, "You could call me son." And that was mind blowing because I knew I got into his head that night before, and I gave him that confidence, and turned out to be one of his best fights ever. I remember the fans were yelling, "Klitschko, Klitschko, Klitschko," and Joshua, Joshua. It was electrifying. So yeah, those are great moments that I live through whenever I work with these fighters.
That fight was unbelievable. I think it was one of the best performances I've ever seen Klitschko put in. Along with a number of incredible performances, but that was the irony of it. He came out on the wrong side of the result that night. but it could have gone either way. I mean, that really was nip and tuck, that fight. And of course, Klitschko sort of bringing the curtain down on a fantastic career there. So out of interest, Stitch, out of the likes of Ward, Fury, Klitschko, these guys you've worked with, who was the most professional that you found to work with, the most dedicated to their craft, spent the most time in the gym that you?
The Klitschkos, no doubt. When it came to discipline and just being the characters that they were, super, super people. And the team, people that worked with them, sparring partners, they always took care of them. They were just, they represented themselves in the sport at the highest level possible. And, till this day, it's just tough for anybody to say that, they've done better than the Klitschkos. Mm-hmm. On our last days of, when Vladimir retired, they invited the whole team to Austria, up in the mountains where Vladimir used to train for preparations of fights, just for the weekend. And they invited us all just to say thank you for being part of the team. And they gave us beautiful, beautiful bronze statues of themselves that weigh about 35, 40 pounds, So that's the kind of people they are.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they always come across. So I've only ever seen them on TV. Unfortunately, never had the chance to meet them, but they come across incredibly well and as complete gentlemen as well.
I remember Vitali'S Klitschko said, Stitch, he says, if you were in my corner when I fought Lennox Lewis, I would have won that fight. So that's a nice little compliment coming in from Vitali'S Klitschko, which is the mayor of Kiev now.
Yeah.
So bless his heart.
Yeah, I mean, that is a compliment. And like you say, I mean, on that fight, I mean, a lot of people do feel that was going Klitschko's way before the cut. It was a cut.
Yeah, and the thing about it,
Lennox caused a cut with a punch, but at the end of the day, it leaves a sort of, there's a grey area. It's always a bit of debate around that fight.
Well, and then there was additional damage, and people never look at the cut in the mouth, which is also a bad situation, because if you don't spit all that blood out during your fighting, you're going to be swallowing it. And down the road, the chances of getting nauseated or just, it's not good for you. Melvin Taylor, when he fought Julio Cesar Chavez, swallowed all that blood, So people forget to look at that. They were both bad cuts, and, it would have changed Vitali's life.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel, I mean, if you were in the corner, do you think you could have made the difference that night, Stitch?
It's a good question. You're gonna be real good at this, bro. It's funny because doctors will tell you and referees will tell you that, we see who's working the corner, the cut. And if it's an experienced cut man, then we'll give them that extra opportunity to work on it. I think I could have, to the point where they would have gave me that opportunity to at least go one more round, two more rounds, and no telling what would have happened there. But Joe Souza is a great cut man, but that was a bad cut. But I've worked on those kind of cuts multiple times, in the MMA, in the bare knuckle fights, even boxing.
Yeah.
But like you say, I even also would have took care of the mouth, which nobody really mentioned.
And where did you learn your craft, Stitch? How did you actually get into doing cuts and learning the art of being a cut man like yourself, probably the most notorious cut man in the game?
Yeah, thanks. You know what? In the old days, it was only boxing at that time, and these boxing cut men thought that it was a secret and that they wouldn't divulge their secret. So when I started making the transition from a trainer to learning how to wrap hands, I'd be in the dressing room and the old veteran cut men would be wrapping hands, and I'd be looking at them from a distance and just kind of looking at the technique, and then I would practice on my own. But I remember when I had my school of kickboxing, Marvis Frazier, Joe Frazier's son, fought Bone Crusher Smith in Richmond, California. And I went to the fights, and this one cut man did a good job on cuts. And I went up to him after the fights, and I said, "Hey, look, you did a nice job. I'm trying to learn to be a cut man. Can you tell me what you did?" He says, "Fuck you." He goes, "I'm taking this to my grave, and you got to learn like me." And he walked away. And I felt about this big, and I said, "Well, I'm never going to be like this man. My job is going to be to teach." So I've done this story many times, never thrown his name out once. He don't even know that it affected my life in a positive way. But yeah, I know you don't know because I go back to Oakland with Andre Ward, which is at that time the undisputed champion of the world, and that's our hometown. And let me get this off the screen. There we go. And now him and his son want to take a picture with me. I've been in the Creed movies and this and that.
Oh, yeah.
Working with Andre and the Klitschkos. And I said, I put my arms around him, and I thought, yeah, thank you. So yeah, just in the trenches. That's why now it's important for me, Tom, to go out there and teach as many as I can. I got a call yesterday and I got a call today. Guys that are asking questions about taking care of the fighters.
Yeah.
So good question.
Fantastic. And moving on, Stitch, you mentioned it there. I wanted to ask you about the Rocky movies, the Creed movies. I know you were in both. How did that come around? Did Sylvester Stallone give you the call personally, or can you talk to me a bit about that?
Yeah, it's quite a mind blowing experience. I've been in 7 movies. I'm not even an actor, and I don't want to be an actor, but I think myself, or at least a character as myself. So the first one I did was with Woody Harrelson and Antonio Banderas. They're all boxing movies. Here Comes the Boom, not Here Comes the Boom, Play It to the Bone. And then I did Ocean's 11 when Lennox Lewis fought Vladimir Klitschko.
Yeah. And
I was in Klitschko's corner. And after that, that's when Vladimir Klitschko told Emmanuel Stewart, I want the guy that was my cut man in the movie to work with me. And that's how we hooked up.
That's amazing.
And then I did Balboa when Rocky fought his last fight. Now on that one, I get a call from the referee, Joe Cortez. And they're filming here in Las Vegas at the Mandalay Bay. And he asked if I'd be interested in being a cut man for the movies and this and that. Well, at that time, I was already booked to do a world championship fight in Paris, France with Fabrice Tiozzo. And then I was going to work with your heavyweight, Audley Harrison, that had just won the gold medal.
Yeah.
Right. So I told him I couldn't do it because I was going to Paris and then I was going to London with Audley Harrison. And I called my wife at work and she says, are you crazy? She says, Rocky's an American icon. You have to do it. And I thought about it. I got off the phone, and this same exact location where I'm at on this same computer, I was already negotiating with Audley Harrison's people about flights and pay and et cetera, right? And I thought about it, and I pushed delete. And I sent them a message, I hope you understand, from our last conversation to now, I got an offer to be in Balboa. And they understood. And so it turns out the fight in France got canceled anyway. So listen to your wife. You that's what you heard or not. Listen to your wife, So yeah, and then Creed 1, Creed 2, and Creed 3, and they brought me on board. I think maybe Andre Ward, because Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan were training with him in Oakland in preparation for Creed. And I think Andre told Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler, get Stitch, it's a great company. So they called me. And that's how I started, and Michael on the second one, every day I wrap Michael's hands, it's just him and I, we talk. And I, like KSI, when I worked with KSI, I treated them like they were boxers because they are. And then you got to give it that same mental game and all that. But in the second movie, I'm telling Michael how proud I am of him and Ryan Coogler, who wrote, directed Creed, and Tessa Thompson, and, Steve Cappell, the director of the second one. And, all them, and he looks at me and he says, Stitch, he goes, we went from being actors to writers, producers, directors. And he looks at me as I'm wrapping his hands and he says, I'm directing Creed 2 and you're with me as long as you want. So, yeah. And I just saw him again when Shakir Stevenson fought here in Las Vegas, and they're working on Creed 4 and hopefully in a couple of years. So that's where I met Tony Bello, right?
Yeah.
And it was funny because they told me, the British accent's a little heavy, right? So his buddy Gotti, he introduced me to his buddy Gary. But he said, this is Gotti, right? And for the longest time, a week or two, I'm thinking his name is Gotti like Arturo Gotti. But it's actually Gary, So there was a little miscommunication there. So, yeah. But Tony Bello's great guy, man. I love him.
Yeah, again, haven't met Bellew in person, but from what I see.
Well, you tell him next time that you spoke to me, see, that's how you make your contact. It's called Marketing 101. And you hey, man, I spoke to Stitch, or you spoke highly about you.
Yeah. I'll see if it works. I'll send him a DM after this, and I'll see if I get a response, Stitch.
It'll work, trust me. Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, tell him I said hi.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And just before we finish, Stitch, I just wanted to get a couple of your opinions and a view on the current scene, seeing what's going on in Saudi Arabia. There's been some mega fights going on recently. What did you make of Deontay Wilder's last performance against Joseph Parker? It looks, from what I would say, not, a bit shot from his former self. It was a monster before. The fights with Fury potentially took a lot out of him. They took a lot out of each other. What did you make of that fight?
Yeah, I didn't see the fight, but from what I understand, yeah, it's a little disappointing, to see. Well, just like Tyson Fury, I guess they said he got dropped with Francis Ngannou. So I don't know if they took those fights as serious, because Joseph Parker, I've worked with him before. He was actually in that fight, he was the B fighter with Deontay Wilder. So maybe mentally during their training, they don't take that level of competition as hard as they would if he was fighting Tyson Fury type of thing, right? So I don't know, but Duncan Dakawari was a heavyweight from Nigeria. His nickname was Time. And I never forget, I told Boza Edwards, but Boza Edwards from the UK told me yesterday, I said, the thing with boxing is you can beat anything, but you can't beat time. And maybe that's what happened to Deontay Wilder.
Yeah. Do you think we'll see him back in the ring?
I don't know. Good question. Do you want to see him back in the ring?
I love Wilder, but I think that's the worst I've ever seen him perform in his last fight. So don't know whether he's lost his hunger. I know he talked about sort of going down a different path now, whether he's just a bit ring rusty 2 years. I mean, I guess time will tell if he gets back in the ring, but that isn't like the Wilder that I've seen in ever, to be honest.
And I think one of the comments was talking about Malik Scott was trying to make him a boxer, and he's not a boxer, he's a puncher. Yeah. And I worked early in his career. I worked against him with Sergey Lahovich from Belarus, and he knocked Sergey out to the point they sent him to the hospital. So I know Deontay Wilder had that punch.
Oh, his powers, he's I believe he's the hardest punching heavyweight ever, him or Foreman. He looked reluctant to throw a little bit, I thought, against Parker, but maybe just ring rust. Who knows? Some other fights as well. I mean, wanted to get your prediction for Francis Ngannou versus Anthony Joshua.
That's another one. The thing with, and I tell people they underestimate the mentality of an MMA fighter, right? But I've always said that boxers on their mental game is right here. MMA fighters, their mental game has to be right here. And I've also worked with bare knuckle fighters, and their mental game has to be up there because of the type of fight situation that they're going to put themselves in, right? Francis Ngannou is he hits as hard as any heavyweight, and Anthony Joshua is the better boxer of both at this point, but all it takes is one shot. Can Francis Ngannou take the power of Anthony Joshua? Well, he's done it many times in MMA. That's what I'm saying. The pain threshold is a little bit higher. So interesting fight, but I'm glad for Francis Ngannou that him and Dewey Cooper and Eric, his coaches. I know Eric was talking about, he did an interview, one of the coaches, when Francis paid him, when he looked at his bank account, he started crying, because it was just, he did the right thing. He goes, he just changed my whole life. Yeah. And you get that new generation of guys like him, like Jake Paul that take care of the fighters. That's the new generation. You're talking about Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is the new generation. They're the ones that are bringing in the mega fights and paying these guys mega bucks. So the game has changed to that capacity. Yeah, I'm glad to be part of it.
Absolutely. And just finally, Stitch, final one I wanted to get your prediction on. Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk. How do you see that one going?
Yeah, that's a tough one too. I normally don't give predictions. It's just, for the most part, we're all armchair quarterbacks, and our predictions don't really have no value, right?
That's right.
But the type of fight, would I like to see it? Yeah, of course I would like to see it. I think both fighters come to fight, and Ukrainian fighters, Russian Eastern Bloc fighters have a different mental game up there, and so yeah, we'll see how it plays off. Boxing wise, I remember I told Tyson Fury when I first walked in, the first day I met him, I walked into the gym at Top Rank here in Las Vegas, and we shake hands and we're talking about the cuts and what I'm going to do. I'll keep eyes on him every round and so. But I told him, I said, we could never understand how you beat Vladimir Klitschko, with your style of fighting, and Vladimir is so much of a perfectionist. But then I saw you fight Deontay Wilder, and I knew that your skill level was at a real high level. And that's the skill level that you can't teach nobody. You can't teach nobody how to fight like Tyson Fury, as you can't teach nobody how to fight like Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah.
So in that aspect, now I know, his style of fighting. So I don't know. We'll see. Usyk has a knockout power. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Stitch, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for coming on Through the Ropes Boxing, and hopefully we can do it again in the not too distant future.
Anytime. Good luck, my man. And yeah, tell Tony Pavel I said hi.
I will do.
And tell him, hey, man, Stitch says you better lock in with me.
I appreciate that, Stitch.
All right, my man. All the best.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.